November 180 Bravo Bravo, good afternoon to you. Report your altitude.
2,000 feet on 1014, Bravo Bravo.
Bravo Bravo.
Hi, Wycliffe Barrett, Xplane Dedicated. Today I'm pleased to announce officially the Xplane Dedicated approved wired-to-fire PC. For the past few years I've been working very closely with Wired2Fire and they have been sponsoring my stand at RAF Cosford. 3 years ago I bought a new computer and Wired2Fire was the company that I went to. I did a lot of research and went to a number of companies, and even though I could have built one myself, I decided that I wanted the freedom of warranty and be able to send my machine back to base if required, rather than me having to try and fix it and find all my warranties. And that's why I bought a PC from Wired2Fire. Since then, Wired2Fire and myself, Xplane Dedicated, have collaborated on designing and constructing a PC for the Xplane community. Now, you can buy this machine from Wired2Fire, and I have to tell you that it is far better than the machine that I bought 3 years ago. And then I bought an i7 4770 with a GTX1080, which I quickly upgraded to a GTX1080 Founders Edition. I've got 32 gig of RAM, DDR3 RAM I think, on a Gamers Republic motherboard. It's a really good machine. It's very solid and it's a very, very good machine. But the new machine that we've designed together, myself and Wired2Fire, is an i5 The new machine that the machine that Wired2Fire and myself, Xplane Dedicated, have designed is based around an i5 processor, which is the 8600K processor, revision 2 I believe, and there is 16 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM, and it's packing a Gigabyte GTX1080 graphics card. Now, not the 1080 Ti, and certainly not the RX 2080. This is your GTX 1080 from Gigabyte. And you would think, listening to those numbers, that it would not perform as well as an i7. I have to tell you that this machine that myself and Wired2Fire have collaborated on in the design is actually way better than the i7 PC that I've got under my desk. I will show you some video, I hope. We'll talk about frame rates. It's not a very scientific assessment, but it's based on my experience of working with Xplane 10 previously, and Xplane 11. So it's based on that experience, which I think is fairly robust, and all I can do is give my opinion and suggest certain things, okay? So let me go through the complete specification of the machine. I've had to write it down in my handy dandy notebook here. So as I say, it's an i5 processor. It's the 8600K processor, running at 3.60 gigahertz. Obviously on the machine there's the normal Wired2Fire tuning. It's got 16 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM, which is extremely fast, and the GTX 1080 graphics card from Gigabyte. So that's not a Founders Edition, but a third-party NVIDIA compatible GTX 1080. It's cooled by Master Liquid 120, and it's got a number of 120mm fans in. There's two in the top, and there's one at the rear of the PC, which is linked to the radiator. And I'll put some photographs in and everything so you can see that. And it's got a 750 watt Coolermaster power supply, which is from the Gold division. The case is a Fractal Design Define R6 case. It's an aluminium case, extremely cold to the touch. I've got my hand on it now. Extremely cold to the touch and very cool, and keeps a good flow rate going through it. PC case is designed for airflow. Some people, they take the sides off and put a fan against it. That does no good whatsoever. All PC cases are designed for airflow, and the airflow on this is exceedingly good. Inside, There are a number of drive bays, quite a few, I can't remember exactly. I think you've got probably 8 drive bays in there, and everything is so neat and hidden away that when you open it up and look inside, all you can really see is the coolant pipes going onto the coolant exchange unit on top of the processor. You can see the RAM and the graphics card, and that is about it. You can't see any cables, everything is hidden away. It's absolutely beautiful inside. The management, the cable management is superb. Anyway, enough of that. I'm going to put up some video now. Hopefully you'll bear with the video because it's right from the beginning when the box was delivered to the house, and me unpacking it and having a look inside, and then you'll see some video of the PC in action. But I will tell you straight away that when I first fired it up, I thought it was broken because I couldn't hear anything. The PC is silent, absolutely silent. I ran it with Xplane 11, with the default Cessna, with the sliders all the way to the left. So all the sliders were right down to the left, and I was displaying something like 130, 150 frames per second. I put all the sliders to the right, apart from reflections, so all of the sliders went all the way to the right, apart from reflections, and in the default Cessna, it was something like 80 to 90 frames per second. I have since installed Orbex Trueworth Great Britain South and Orbex EGFF Cardiff, of course, and in the default Cessna frame rates are around about 60 frames per second. In the Zebo Mod 737, which is a little bit more robust in terms of complexity, in the 737 on the ground, facing the terminal, it is 35 frames, 40 frames per second, okay? At the end of the runway, at the end of runway 30, looking down the runway, it is, in the cockpit, around about 45 to 50 frames per second. Any external view, so whether I am in the air or whether I'm on the ground, any external view at any angle, whether looking straight down at the ground or having half ground and half sky, whether looking up at the sky at clouds, it's a solid 60 frames per second. When I say solid, it does not move, okay? The overall experience of that, of course, is incredible smoothness, and some of the flying that I've done in the default Cessna has been so smooth, it's unbelievable. I've flown the 737 from Zebo Mod as well, and a very, very smooth implementation of that aircraft within the simulator. So that's kind of the baseline stuff, okay? As a member of this collaboration myself, I highly recommend this machine to anybody. You can get it from Wired Sapphire. It will be on their website. It's Xplane Dedicated. It is badged. It has got my branding on there, and if you want to customize it in any way that you so wish, so if you want to put extra RAM in, or you want more hard drives or anything, then all you have to do is contact Wired Sapphire and they will do that, obviously at a cost. The cost of this machine, well, I'll let you know about that towards the end of the video, okay? Wired Sapphire have delivered the box, and I'm trying to give you some scale, but it is huge. Oh, there we go, Frank is in the shot, so you can see it's a big box. It is massive, absolutely huge. And Wired Sapphire always do this. They send huge boxes because they double pack their computers. Right, so we'll get it open. It's almost like an unboxing, this, which I don't do often. I don't do unboxings, but as this is the first Xplane Dedicated PC, we'll give it an unboxing if we can. There we go. Right, so there we have box number one. So we need now to get all this out and get to box number two. Here we are with box number two. It's Fractal Design Define R6 computer case. So we get the dog out of the way. So we'll get it out of there. So that's that one, and that's that one. So put them together, and then you can really judge the size. There we go. So in the box here, obviously we've got a box of bits and pieces. This is the motherboard, which is a Asus Prime Z370p. So it's featuring Intel chipset. It's got Crossfire technology, HDMI. It's VR ready with a safe slot core, surge protected networking, over voltage protection, and stable power supply. So it's stainless steel back as well. Looks like a very nice board. We'll have a look at this in some detail in a little while, but it'd be interesting to see what they've put in here, because if I recall, when I got my own PC from Wired to Fire, they just put all the spare cables and everything in here. Yeah, spare cables, drivers. That's going to be an OEM version of Windows 10. All the bits and pieces, stickers, tray things, and a power cable, which is something we will need. That's the processor Doogee me flip. Yeah, that's exactly what I had. Lots and lots of spare nuts and what have you. Okay, so we can close that now. Don't need that. In here, of course, is the tower. So we'll get this out, get it out of the plastic, and have a look. Well, here we are then with the Xplane Dedicated machine from Wired to Fire. Just got it, so I need to open it up and figure out what's going on inside, but I can tell you the specification on it, so if you just bear with me 1 second, he says. So the spec on this is an i5 processor, which is the 8600K revision 2 processor. It's got Wired to Fire tuning on it, 16 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM, so we'll have a look at that. That's faster RAM than I've got. GTX1080. Master liquid cooling, Master liquid 120 cooling system, 750 Coolermaster power supply, which is bronze 80 plus, 2 terabyte hard drive and a 250 gig SSD. So all looks very nice indeed. We'll have a look at that, we'll get it open, and we'll look at all of those components and see what it looks like on the inside. So here we have the inside of the machine. As you can see, the Coolermaster there on top of the main processor, which is a liquid unit, to the main fan and radiator at the back. This is the radiator as a fan, and the liquid going into the coolant exchange, which is pretty neat. There's our RAM, DDR4 RAM, and the 1080 GTX 1080. Now the one I've got is the Founders Edition, so this is a Gigabyte one, which will probably run a lot quicker. And as always, the cable management now in computers is absolutely wonderful. I mean, you've got this one loom here, and a couple of things down here, which are you got the SATA and HDMI, I think that is. Let's have a look behind it. This will be the, hang on. Yeah, this is your drive bays. Then we've got the 2 terabyte Seagate Barracuda drive there, and I should imagine the SSD will be underneath that, at a guess, because I can't see it anywhere else. It's not in any other place. Got 2 nice 120mm fans in there, one at the bottom, one up at the top here. Yeah, one at the bottom, one at the top through there. Come on, focus, focus, focus. It's not focusing, there it is. So, lots of cooling. No coolant in the top, and this top comes off. But how did I do it? It came off before, but I can't get it off now. Not to worry. So really quite straightforward inside. So what we really need to do is we need to power this up, get it lit up. Power supply will be under there. Can't see it. This is all very neat. Previous years everything would be available and you could see everything. It's All very good. Here I've placed some still images from Xplane, and well, I thought I'd just take some images from all different angles, but what I've done here, I've installed Orbex True Earth Great Britain South, as you can see, and I was just taking screenshots from different angles just so you could have a look and see what it looks like. I'm using default clouds and default weather from Xplane 11, and as you can see, it looks all very nice. The frame rates I'm getting are around about 50 frames, I think it was around about 50 to 60 frames per second, which is really quite high and incredibly smooth. I must admit, it just looks so smooth overall. What I did do at one point was that I put all my sliders to the right, as you can see here. I put all the sliders to the right in the default Cessna in Xplane 11, and there you can see the frames. So I was getting 52 frames per second, FPS at 52, with all the sliders to the right, and I'm using Orbex True Earth Great Britain South. Once again, just different random shots at different angles, looking at the ground and the sky, and then just looking at the sky, and I was getting 50 to 60 frames in the default Cessna. Okay, I've got to be very clear about this. It's default, but even so, it was absolutely superb. It looked beautiful. It was so smooth. Of course, still images are not really helpful, and it might be useful if you have some moving images as well, which I have got. I did a little bit of film from within the simulator. So it was Orbex True Earth Great Britain South with Orbex Cardiff, default clouds and default weather, and had all the sliders to the right. I then adjusted the sliders down to something a bit more reasonable, and I think I had them set slightly differently. But even so, as you can see here, on the ground, I've got something like 40 to 50 frames per second. Looking really, really good. I will take off here and zoom in on the FPS counter so you can have a proper look at that. But here we are at Cardiff Airport, just about to take off and release the brakes. Here we go. At least I think so. I had a bit of a problem. Here we go. So just taking off at Cardiff Airport, and I will zoom in on the frame counter so you can see exactly how many frames per second I was getting. I just throttle back a little bit. There we go. So 50, 60 frames per second. Absolutely perfect, no problem at all. Very, very smooth indeed. Made for a lovely flight. Absolutely beautiful flight. So I think that speaks volumes in itself, and it's very loud. So now I think it's time to get into the Boeing 737 by Zebo, the Zebo mod, and let's have a look at that. So here we are, taking off on runway 30 at Cardiff in the Zebo mod, 737-800. Very nice indeed. Looks good. No problems at all here whatsoever. Very nice and smooth. And I think maybe we should just have a look at the settings before we look at how many frames we produce in. Because what I did reduce the settings, I'll be perfectly honest. So here they are. This is what I reduced things to. Still got number of world objects at maximum.
400.
Visual effects high HDR. Texture quality is maximum.
1000.
And anti-aliasing is at 4 times SSAA. Now you can change that around to whatever you feel suits you, of course, but that's what I brought it down to rather than the far right, because we're in a more complex aircraft and still really need to see what kind of frames it's producing. If I recall, it's producing 60 frames per second, almost like everywhere else. Really exceptional machine. So it's 60 frames per second internally, so inside the cockpit, and externally on all external views it's the same. Here you see some external views as I climb out of Cardiff with default clouds on. There you are, 60 frames per second in external views, and it was the same with internal views as well. And just panning around there, but you can see steady 60 frames per second from this i5-8600K processor. Very nice indeed. The PC comes in a black aluminium case. It's very cold to the touch, regardless of cooling inside. It's just really cold to touch. Even in a warm room, I'm just touching it now. It sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? I'm just touching it now under the desk, and it's very cool. And I've got the central heating here on it in the house here. So yeah, it's very good. It's well made. Quite a heavy machine, I have to say. Weighs quite a bit, but surprisingly, there's very little inside. So the weight is all in the case. Galvanized steel aluminium casing. Very nice indeed. Anyway, I think that's about as much as we can say about it. As I say, it is available on the website now, www.wiredfire.co.uk. I will put a direct link to the actual PC in the description below. And if there's any questions anybody's got, just ask the questions on the YouTube channel, and I'll try and answer them the best I can. When you go to the website, you will notice that there's the basic model, which is the one that I'm using now, but you can customize that any way you want. As always with Wiredfire, you can do that. So have a look, see what you think. I think that this machine is fairly solid as it is. I'll put the price up at the end of the video. You all take care, and we'll see you soon. Hope you enjoyed watching the review of the Xplane Dedicated approved Wiredfire PC. They're now available on the website, so it's www.wired2fire.co.uk, and that's the number 2. You can have a look at the machine on there. It's £1,500 as it is, exactly as the review model that I've had a look at. This video has been sponsored by Wired2Fire. Many thanks to them for their continued support and sponsorship of my stand at RAF Cosford. We'll see you all very soon. You all have a very good Christmas, and if you buy a PC, make sure you go to Wired2Fire. Cheerio.